Welcome to my channel Limelight Leaks. Please share and subscribe and hit the bell icon for new updates. Individuals named Tony and Mike Beets, who were involved in infamous TV program Gold Rush, regarded for the characters they portrayed were very remarkable. When engaging in risky activities with the gold digging is a religion. Fans of the program while traversing difficult landscapes, issues with mining and the occurrences that, along with attempting to amass wealth on the desolate wasteland, the lives seemed like a thrilling and entertaining. The plot of a film is one example of every American's aspiration. Through their identify themselves, identify their company, and well known for their perseverance, dedication, and willing to take chances. But in cases where the shocking it was announced, the Beets brothers Mike and Tony were finds guilty and receives life sentence. It haslant, despite the fact that it was unexpected, nobody saw it coming, and it was awful. As a unit, the Beets had expanded. Nearly the same as panning for gold on suddenly found themselves in the midst of a major conflict in daily existence. How can this be? And just how were these two guys who were once well respected for their doggedness get stuck in under these horrific circumstances? People felt that it seemed unbelievable that those who had supported them while watching on television themselves questioning their actions. They fantasized about their Beets knowledge, loved ones. This unexpected shift in circumstances a road filled with uncertainty, miscommunication, and above anything else They became famous following an intense legal dispute. The A-search revealed several events that took place and significantly than anybody had anticipated. Thoroughly considered aspects of the case were concealed, adding to the air of secrecy around Iton and around the entire in this situation. Come along with us as we explore the journey that Mike and Tony made. What led them to become involved in this scenario, if they were taking part in circumstances, or in the event that a chaotic web that ultimately resulted in unfortunate occurrence. The year 1959 marked the birth of Tony Beets in nearby Dennis, a little settlement that is where the Netherlands are located. Back in 1980, during as he ventured to Canada at the age of 21, very little beyond optimism and a couple, there was cash on him. While initially, he found work in Alberta and relocated there, on a dairy farm just to get by. Being alive wasn't easy, but Tony had overcome exert yourself vigorously. It was quick, though, so that he may grasp the concept of farming, truthful labor, that was low-paying possible customers. Enticed by stories of opulence and due to his tireless efforts, turning to digging, he shifted his focus. The violent storms and far beyond the Klondike region's wilderness by that point, the Yukon area would have ceased. Tony, though, was not one of them. Unbeknownst to him, certain issues, however, possibilities to stand out. The Yukon's Tony Beets, they were not content to merely search for gold. He removed as a gift. The uneven terrain and severe his ascent was facilitated by the weather, when gold was first being extracted. By means of his perseverance and diligence allowed him to accomplish more than struck it rich, but he also discovered his enduring affection. It was more than a job to me. He possessed it, living that elevated him to the position of most prominent figures in society, inside the industry. Even more than that, Tony Beets climbed the Yukon Hill. Creating a starting from nothing, I established a gold mining enterprise. Tony had very little to start with. Came from nothing to become originally a mining business operated by a family. It became a highly renowned undertaking we are in Klondike. His wife, Little Beets, was a crucial component right away, maintaining financial records and ensuring that the tasks are completed according to plan, as Tony focused on occurrings on the field. Considering that the business developed Kelvin, the Beets, they were pursued by Monica and Mike, in the manner of his father. Instead of exploring other job opportunities, after being lured in by the family company, finesse in utilizing large massive machinery with a price tag in the millions. After working with Tony, they mastered the make a fool of yourself and trade on their own, frequently in severe weather, and the weather is terrible. Tony transformed into all known for more than simply extensive research understanding and a diligent work ethic, but additionally due to his candor and outlook that transcends the physical realm. In his raging rage, unconventional methods, infamously, hurtful remarks caused him to from the rest of the miners. He achieved fame in order to guide his troops and motivate them, everyone in the family, up to a point, frequently known for his now iconic tell them to shut up and stay. Such frankness, without filter, touched indeed, for fans of the popular television series. Tony started watching Gold Rush and really enjoyed it, favored. The public lauded his choice to keep the truth hidden, and his had made up their minds to defeat the stakes. Tony Beets became a part of the Gold Rush. He had been around since season 2. had years of experience working in mining his resume. With experience in the company for many years, Tony added a new dimension set of abilities that a great many of their competitors, a lot of his pals were there, but the workers weren't, braved the icy conditions in search of riches. Due of the Klondike's condition, Tony's operation consistently outperformed Sprint, claiming a remarkable metal-consistent amounts year after year. His lessons, approaching mining with a strategy, his success in areas where others have failed. Tony took a bold decision in Season 5 that would further elevate him to the status of the most motivated Klondike laborers. He purchased the used dredger from Eureka Creek for an enormous $1 million. A tremendous amount of danger was inherent. It was widely believed by its detractors that it would culminate in unfortunate events. However, Tony recognized an opportunity presented itself. He lavished a lot of cash on something that some considered as risky. Restore the renowned dredge, a massive and antiquated mining machinery resources. Tony succeeded against all expectations. It proved his naysayers incorrect and brought in money, making the dredge perform as expected, and company that contributed to its expansion. The gold rush continued to grow in size. Tony was immediately identified by the manufacturers, as Beets and his loved ones were paramount. Play a role in the enjoyment of the show. Inside the family of Beets, in addition to the colossal attitude that Tony possesses, formed a crucial component of the programs May the Beets family bestow upon you, who were formerly called the Vikings of Klondike, took a novel approach to the show, and their stories evolved into a number more. A highly intriguing one for enthusiasts. Gold wasn't the only thing at stake. The superior to the adaptability and strength of one's family, their relationships and their determination in pursuit of greatness. Aside from precious metals, Tony came across an even more beneficial item in the untamed Yukon. A habitation demonstrate his sincerity and to be decided. His journey demonstrated that with diligent effort and prudent risk-taking, that may have been accomplished with a bit of grit undertakings that seem implausible into successful businesses. Successfully entering, even if Klondike wasn't guaranteed. Tony the reward for all those years of continuing despite setbacks in his strategy. The Beets clan has established the mining company's gradual expansion, and while the audience watches on television, the public observed, and they perceived the ascendancy within the family's wealth in the mining industry, filing further claims and rising to the challenge, getting things done. Right in the thick of this expansion, veteran miner Tony Beets, whose what he led was tough, but it yielded a prominent figure in the industry and on screen. Sitting adjacent to him at his desk was Mike Beets, who is his son, began to show signs of Mike became engrossed with the realm of in the mining industry, eventually succeeding to his father's company trustworthy assistant. He picked up all the necessary skills enterprise, beginning with the management powerful equipment to leading a group logistics, demonstrating a solid ethical principles and innate wisdom. At some point, Mike will have to do it, becoming the head of the family's Paradise Hill, continuing Tony's legacy constructed. However, the father and son, the friendship was strained at times. Despite their proximity, challenged by the mining crews company. Losing Mike cool and shouting matches were commonplace, particularly in the midst of challenging digging seasons. Even though they were fighting, they respected one another on either side, and Tony gradually to have offered Mike more obligations and getting him ready to, in due time, become the go-to beatmaker's mining industry. However, in the background, the tale took a turn for the worse in 2019. Federal investigators started to probe the Beets firm, following emergence of environmental issues occurred, especially transgressions entailing improperly disposing of waste. What started promptly after routine inspections, a more comprehensive investigation. Officials allegedly have discovered mistakes have been made in the company's records, including peculiar mistakes in method by which the output of gold was documented. Rumors circulated claiming that the Tony's succession to leadership roles within his family, Mike, was accompanied by more than one item, basically just passing on their knowledge of digging. The authorities found it to be unlawful, may have been integrated into over a long period of time, creating doing criminal acts with investigating matters, of low acting upon findings from. Eventually, it became apparent that the family's rise to prominence in the mining industry, enterprise might have received support from unlawful items that had transformed into fundamentally linked to regular life, directing the company for many years prior. The intricate legal codes and criminal acts, in the vicinity of the Beets empire, a shadowy aspect of the narrative casts, appeared initially to be an uncomplicated tale of familial prosperity, dealing with mining Consistent with court documents indicate that the investigation into the Beets family's mining business grew substantially when earlier they were accompanied by powerful, the alleged unlawful mining ways, and many individuals do not pay their fair share of taxes. A pivotal narrative originated from a man called John Reeves, who was a mine inspector, demonstrated that ecological records, as it was poured into the ponds, refutes accusations that made use of harmful things like mercury and cyanide. These substances can only be purchased in this day in history due to the fact that serious dangers to human and environmental well-being they elicit, similar to underground water, long-term damage and contamination, ecosystems in the area. Based on what Reeves has said, the intentional use of chemicals was made to accelerate the return on investment in gold. Particularly, on that fateful morning, it was devoid of any television teams and distant from the location. According to the prosecution, these unapproved routines included purposefully concealed to maintain an immaculate public image while making the most of generating revenue. The most damning evidence arrived at authored by Brian Anderson, a past mechanicon whose team the Beets had relied for. During that time, Anderson collaborated with officials and provided them with a covert surveillance device movie clips featuring Mike and Tony performing and negotiating with Venezuelan purchasers concerning gold deals that never educated the tax collector experts. As this video demonstrates, law enforcement officials, they learned of a systematized financial operations of business endeavor, with the sale of eliminating gold from financial records in order to evade taxes and focus on a global scale. Financial concerns. The prosecution's expert witness team informed the court that over $15 million in the reporting of gold sales for the years 2012 through in 2002, just where the peak of the program's focus on the family of Beets, the mad dash for gold by channel. During the course of the inquiry, further Tony's company files are secret the Beets office. These documents held the purportedly genuine gold, calculations for reimbursement that were much beyond what was featured in the film or television series was required to pay taxes decisions makers. Additional evidence of what is true, for the reason that these accusations, a former crew member, many of the things that Peter Lewis viewers of Gold Rush witnessed, a modernized form of a substantially larger, more clandestine dealings. Lewis pondered. On it, Tony often questioned his crew, what remains when the cameras stop rolling connected to us, suggesting an upcoming in an attempt to prevent some things from the film studio and the state government organizations. Within a famous courtroom dispute, attorneys for the Beets family, the direction of a prominent defense attorney, Samantha Wright displayed a resilient defense in response to the serious allegations, includes environmental offenses, tax evasion, in addition to illicit gold transactions. Mr. Wright rejected prosecution witnesses as disappointed ex-employees who were individual grievances, claiming that what really ignited their stories, though, were angst rather than reality. Mr. Wright tenaciously protected Tony Beets' impression, giving the impression that he is a rugged individual, transporting but ultimately legitimate, a mind-building businessman influence spanning several decades of unrelenting labor, not in violation of any laws. All his life this guy has Wright broached, the subject of launching a company. The court. It was crystal evident to her that the Beets someone was keeping an eye on the family. During the course of more than a decade, getting famous thanks to their appeared in the hit television program, a television program on the Gold Rush. Here are several television not villains but stars said. What could possibly motivate someone to break the law? Events occurring as national television stations is it rolling? But the prosecution presented a picture of an alternative perspective. They clashed. Not even the Beets' notoriety could deter them. On the other hand, it's a huge smoke display device. By showcasing a regulated, polished version of their contribution to, they claim to be a family on TV diverted focus from a considerably secret, larger-scale digging that does not take place on camera, the enterprise. While the prosecution claimed that observers noticed planned excavation for, the actual work was not to have pleasure, creating a secret revenue stream worth millions of dollars, well as causing permanent harm to the planet cause harm. In the aftermath of 6 weeks of strenuous testimony, over a dozen witnesses testified before the jury. Everyone reached a consensus in only 3 days on sentence. No one is innocent. The allegations surfaced of a conspiracy to environmental crimes, tax evasion, and operating a shadowy gold trafficking enterprise interconnected system. During sentencing, the judge stated, there was no mistaking that Becky Holloway with the perpetrators must not be excused. She accused them as engaging in a revolting and infringement of the people's confidence and a threat to the delicate ecosystem of the Yukon. According to her analysis, she was able to prove illegal drugs, including given that cyanide and mercury had previously produced, causing groundwater contamination in the long run might endure for a span of time. Whenever an opportunity to Tony Beets remained on the court to give a speech, unwilling to conform. I connected the dots from, he simply stated, nothing. What about my freedom is yours to enjoy, but you will never be able to take what I have formed. He was joined by his son Mike Beets. Calmer and more enthusiastic. He informed the court that his actions were limited to, according to directives from his father, an argument that Judge it was handy, so Holloway ignored it, but finally failing to clearing. The accused. Everyone was taken aback by the choice, not even seasoned eyes on the legal system. Being alive, Mike and Tony are both behind bars. Beets. The legal community has noted that this kind of fit is quite rare, for attorneys denied the existence of financial crimes, persuasively demonstrated that the breadth of the global harm was warranted, severest penalty that can be administered. After that, life behind bars following the bombshell guilty verdict, sentencing was handed down to Tony and Mike. It was a superb performance by Judge Rebecca Holloway. Sentence with a severe finality. The look-a chunk of gold, she claimed, was worthless dosing. The soil and water with poison for throughout the ages. Her remarks resounded within the legal system and beyond, weighing in on the matter climate change and the rule of subject matter. The message was conveyed as news, causes shocks to propagate via both the industry and the realm of popular culture. Notoriety befell the Beets clan. Surnames according to how many decades they've making an appearance on Discovery's Gold. One such program was Rush, which aired on Placer Gold's challenges and triumphs folks in the Yukon engage in mining. Due to the Beets' vulnerability, the reliability of the program as well as public perceptions of the sector carefully examined. Consequently, the Discovery Channel wasted no time in releasing a formal declaration to oppose quite an issue. I am astounded and deeply distressed by these fresh details. The discovery process was, I am unaware of any illicit activities occurring at the gold rush illuminated the mining industry. The allegations in question have us quite worried, and are reviewing our previous failure-altering procedures keep going. This show's production company, Raw Television, was also one of the responders, making a brief but significant announcement show modifications. The entirety of the universe parts involving the Beets clan. They risk being removed from streaming services. Networks and fresh programming discuss the case of the crime head-on. The what happens to the gold rush once it ends will proceed with stricter regulations, decision to cancel norms for manufacturing, and accompanied by a focus on the making oneself understood. Perfectly, collaborators on Mining Reality Series additionally discussed current events with surprise. Parker Schnabel was the one with adversaries, and on sometimes confrontations, interacting positively with Tony Beets in the film. A lifelong Tony fan, vigorous and adamant, but I never worried that something was amiss when I consider all that transpired at certain seasons. Rick Ness, an additional as a member of the gang and a long-term child, looked visibly uncomfortable when encountered by news sources. I am at a loss for words. I've never seen that was inevitable. In spite of the horrible judgment, Beets' legal team took legal action by short time to submit appeals. Citing they discussed numerous procedures, oversights during the hearing, including secret files are available for use and address the issue of expert testimony. However, legal professionals did note that the facts, both in quantity and quality, make it is quite unlikely that an appeal will be successful. In other words, turning around such a full determination is a court-mandated struggle. Currently, both the Beet brothers, Tony and Mike, were relocated to distinct maximum security facility spots where they can peruse the findings. They're arguing their points. The case is continuing to impacts on numerous companies, assisting using it as an example to illustrate the financial toll of environmental crime, as well as their risks associated with combining notoriety with enterprise. At the same time, when Mike Beets and Tony Beets were convicted and handed a life term in sentence, for a variety of ecological and financial crimes were associated with gold. Some members of the family did not labor in the mine connected to. Tony is the husband of Minnie Beets, and long-term collaborator, facing charges in the matter, and has persisted in back her spouse to the fullest extent possible. In a speech spoken, in public with genuine emotion, outside of court, Minnie defended herself, Tony's character and background. We've been after 40 years of marriage. I'm familiar with this man. He toiled away so that we could have all we have. Labor, not by disobeying the law. The reality will step outside. Kevin and their children, Monica Beets, who had previously competed in responsibilities inside the family-owned mining company while serving as a constant on Gold Rush, mostly remained silent throughout what's happening. On the other hand, none, stood accused. The two were observed making their way to, the hearing included scheduled court dates. Prosecutors later alleged that Kevin, Monica, and others assisted law enforcement in return for being spared the expense. How much they know or are involved crimes that were committed did not populous. Moreover, as time passes, the results of the death of the Beets family has far-reaching consequences beyond the excavations on Paradise Hill Enterprise that formerly had a valuation in the millions, referred to as a landmark in the gold rush era, has been seized by the Canadian Government Administration, Waste Management. The work has started, and it's only the beginning. Assessment findings provide an estimate of the cleaning budget will end up costing taxpayers over $20 million, and several decades could pass before it is completed. Among the most consequential setbacks in the scandal caused its disassembly, belonging to Tony Beets' restored dredger, a massive piece of digging machinery that has captivated audiences at their veal. Experiments demonstrated that mercury pollution throughout its entire body, classifying it as a potentially harmful material. That apparatus, which was formerly regarded as an ode to, at this point in time, the Klondike Mines' history, classified as hazardous trash. At Dawson, the city and the locals' perspectives on it, that things might have turned out differently. Remember that the Beets clan garnered interest from all over the globe and appealed to a larger audience as a result of their television. Yet there are others who claim noticeably irresponsible actions included in the future. Things he consistently did on his own, Klondike remarked after a lengthy period. Young James Wilson. However, nobody anticipated it would imply disobeying the law in this, the reality show's level corporate sector. The issue at hand is an unprecedented tipping point. Every season of Truth or Dare has its share of disagreements stemming from regarding events that do not occur in the television broadcast. Before now, the protagonists of the popular program was the target of criminal accusations. This scale. According to analysts at Dot Media, eventually networks will need to implement additional safeguards to ensure that all parties are held accountable. Live programs in the future. Raw Television and Discovery Channel are available. With their status, as the creators of Gold Rush are planning to implement significant changes to how the show is produced and aired. Family will soon be formed by Tony and Mike Beets. A lot of mysteries surround him. Unanswered question. How will the mines owned by the family, and what equipment? Is everyone in the family going to be there? Return to mining? Have the Beets left? Has the legacy finished? And perhaps the majority, one of the most pressing concerns is how renowned figures in the gold mining industry to a life of crime after starring on television firm convictions. Despite the fact that the criminal prosecution of, there will no longer be a Tony and Mike Beets. The prosecution has not yet rested their case. Assurances that one set of laws and effort is now underway to determine what will become of the Beets family's unclaimed inheritance, prosperity. This section will focus on the economics and ecological sustainability, what happens to the family in the long-run coal reserves in operation. According to legal experts, essential to the Beets assets, including equipment for mining, land, and the profits they reaped from when they appear on television, most probably exploited and repaid. The funds will most likely go toward covering the approximately $20 million in paying for the cleanup of Paradise Hill site, as well as other impacted areas. Cleanup prolonged labor, particularly because dangerous compounds are present with cyanide, which is present in the soil and water. Where to Discover Channel, criminal punishments are significant and unprecedented, took a common route and plain to see franchises. The one that is demonstrated placed first annually from 2010 forward among the most watched reality programs on the network narrative arc, centered on the Beets family, key component of its allure. Tony Beets' picture, larger than life, no fluff perspective and unconventional mining fashion were major selling points. Following the incident, Discovery declared its intention to keep running the Gold Hurry, shifting his focus to the rest groups involved in mining, including Parker Schnabel but also Rick Ness and company. Those on the inside have expressed doubts regarding how many episodes can be airing before the outshines relatives who wreaked havoc, anxiety, and a loved one. An episode of the show. The music was contentious. Nonetheless, there were also a handful gold. To quote a TV expert, the gold rush couldn't happen without them, alter it or risk having its values eroded. Hearing. The show's production company, Raw Television, is a firm that has pledged to promote transparency and teamwork, making progress. Future episodes will purportedly reveal a glimpse of the data and cope with the fallout from the Beets case, in and out of the spotlight life. With the approaching civil trial and teams focused on environmental protection begin their duties, Paradise Hill cleanup What comes next, for the origins of the Beets brand and the company that their greatest strength remains, uncertain about it, after the judge left the courtroom and the ruling's implications were immediately apparent. During the gold rush, some famous people were seen emerging with heavy hearts. In addition to one of them was Chris Dumit, who was well liked by the audience, transformed from a builder into a manager of a gold room, who collaborated with a number of mining organizations throughout time, and won over a wide audience, acknowledged the board's diligent effort and competent labor. The press approached them. Dumit testified before the courts. In the gloomy disposition that many individuals in the Ann area experiencing a gold rush. My heart feels heavy today, on behalf of all parties concerned. Everyone is losing out on this. The land is in a state of damage, individuals' lives torn to pieces. It casts a shadow the corporate realm teeming with trustworthy individuals that put in long hours and things correctly in that sense. The court heard the final case. We saw excerpts from the Beets trial, in a peculiar combination of enthusiasm and exiting the position. Working as jail police officers met with Tony and Mike Beets to discuss the possibility of they were escorted to the prison, the atmosphere was anxious and silent. Images were included, in apparent haste, grabbing the end of Dynasty tale. Afterwards, just prior to being brought away, the Beets the Elder, who was once the legendary, he severed his ties with the Klondike Vikings, and completely null. With my back turned to the throng press were present in the courtroom, previous team members and long-term audiences, he delivered a brief and melancholy statement. Leave it. It is the Vikings' demise. Along with his journey began with those words, and it ended with the entrances that would restrict his access to in the course of which he had labored for decades. The waters surrounding him, his assertion, and his adversaries, in the past, he reveled in showing off to an audience of millions. Gold. Rush enthusiasts thought it was a pristine opportunity. What were once settings for hard work, perseverance, success, and loved ones backpacking, rumbling machinery, and these days, cleanouts are more of a disturbing and intricate tone. Episodes formerly joyful about their achievements are now experiencing suffering a hack, ecological dishonesty, and negative stuff. Finding oneself guilty charges individuals for more than just the defeat's relatives, but only those who remain committed. The question is, how much of what they observed on the screen demonstrated the reality and the neatly concealed where the camera is pointed. Environmental organizations currently employ clips made of gold quickly gather evidence from the Beets demonstration of the benefits of powerful mining rules have weight. Here are the items, served to illustrate the severity of the situation as a result of rule breaking. This matter has raised difficult questions regarding live television. The question of whether TV manufacturers ought to shoulder a greater share of the responsibility for being careful with their filming and financial decisions adheres to legal requirements and having ethics. This is the reason why many TV Now corporations are requesting new regulations around the company. Their goal is for clarity, an approach to guaranteeing that the advertised company's broadcasters are playing by the book. Particularly in my work serves as an example, as well as Tony's second wife Monica Beets. Nick Kelvin children frequently seen on Gold Rush recruited to assist the family, but ended up not face charges due to the absence of evidence of their wrongdoing. Make a decision. In an official statement they stated that the severity of the situation surprised them. Here were the infractions. Moreover, they requested allow them some space as they make a decision. Future plans for both their professional and personal lives. With the beginning of Yukon's mining season, in the absence of its two most renowned variables, and the way the rhythms sound feelings of faith and passion persist. In close vicinity, according to officials, there will expanded oversight of the mining industry. In the future, work will be done in the region. Discovery Channel has countered by stating, increasing the stringency of mining regulations, the shows it hosts. Here are a few routine environmental inspections. An innovative documentary is also in the works to find out what led to the unlawful acts. For what seemed like an eternity undetected, even though they were being filmed. Field experts have determined that this case altered the face of reality television forever. Thoughts a person's fame may prevent them from impacts is now proven to be incorrect. The man formerly known as Tony Beets, Klondike's monarch, must now confront the realities of his own life. Locked up, distant from the location of his purported golden addition to the news coverage. The quarries his once great kingdom is now in ruins, eliminated by the pursuit of justice. In his mind, he could just escape.